Hello, LULAC familia, raza, and supporters. I want to give you our weekly presidential update here as we continue going into October, Dia de los Muertos, Halloween, and as well as autumn for many of you all over the country. As you know, we have been at LULAC fighting for justice all over, making sure that we have our voices heard. It's been despicable how Governor DeSantis of Florida and Governor Abbott of Texas have been using immigrants, refugees, many with nothing but literally everything in a trash bag. I've seen them. I've been to Eagle Pass, Texas at a refugee center and talked to them and helped them and gave them legal advice as well as provided them social services. And LULAC even gave about 38 of them a ride, including women and children, to San Antonio where they could get to a more permanent immigrant refugee center. Most of these immigrants are from Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. The United States doesn't have relationships with those countries. Therefore, those people cannot be deported. Until recently, Venezolanos were allowed to stay in this country pending an immigration hearing for asylum. That has changed in the last 2-3 days, and they're now being resent to Mexico under a new agreement. We believe it's time that the United States pass a bipartisan immigration reform bill that allows for legal immigration to this country to be brought in terms of setting higher numbers for different countries, example, Mexico, Nicaragua, Central America, and allow them to come in legally. Right now, from Mexicano coming through a family member, it can take 10 to 20 years. Central Americans and Indians and others, the same thing. So I think it's important that we open up our immigration system for legal immigration, and then that we shut down illegal immigration by providing economic incentives in those countries of origin. Let's help the economies of Central America with a Marshall Plan. Let's help the economy of Venezuela by reopening negotiations and diplomatic relationships with Venezuela and dealing with the human rights issues there, as well as Cuba and Nicaragua. I think if we can talk to Russians and Chinese, we can definitely talk to our neighbors as well, even if we disagree. And I totally disagree with their policies and positions of those three governments. I believe in democracy, and I believe in freedom and the right of every individual to their safety. We have been looking for Perla Huerta, the person who was hired by DeSantis, and we put out a $10,000 reward. That story has gone national. The sheriff of Bexar County has said he is now looking for Perla and has given the victims of that trip from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard asylum. We are working on gerrymandering and voter suppression. We have won 2 major lawsuits in Texas regarding voter suppression against SB 1111, and we were suing SB 1. And we are also in court regarding redistricting. If you can believe, in 30 years, there has never been a new Latino state Senate district, and this year marked the first time in the history of Texas since 1835 that Mexican Americans are now a majority of the state, majority of the ethnic group. We have to start acting like a majority, and we have to start voting like one, and we have to start acting like we understand our role in Texas government and the U.S. government as citizens who deserve the patriotism and the economic and political opportunities and equality that all Americans have. So when we say we pledge allegiance with liberty and justice for all, we mean all. Seguimos la lucha to make sure that all our women are correctly in the military, and the Vanessa Guillen Act, as well as the Caserta Act, we have moved to make sure that those become law and are implemented correctly by the Biden administration. We have been working to make sure that Puerto Rico gets funding to recover from the hurricanes, and we have been pushing and nudging the Biden administration to do so. We have criticized the Supreme Court ruling that says that people in the territories, this came out this week, that it was Samoans suing the United States government, that they were citizens. Unfortunately, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that they were not, unless they were on the mainland of the United States. So those people in the territories, the Virgin Islands, Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico, unfortunately continue to get second-class citizenship, and that needs to change. That's not right, and that's not the American way. They deserve full citizenship, and they deserve the right to be Americans, as long as the U.S. gives them keeps them as territories. I also believe in self-determination. Each one of those territories have the right to determine their own destiny, and they should have a vote and decide if they want to be independent, if they want to have statehood, or if they want to retain territorial or Commonwealth status. Finally, I want to say that here at LULAC, we've had problems in la familia. Every time there's a familia, va a haber un pleito. That's part of who we are. Siempre hay la abuela loca, or siempre hay la que tira la chancla. We know that, okay? And you probably have heard about our national board that we've been having issues. But let me just tell you, and you have my promesa, my promise. I have never taken 1 cent, never spent $1 of LULAC money. In fact, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in LULAC. And the reason is because I wanted to fight for this organization and to continue our legacy of 93 years fighting for social justice for our community. That means I will not tolerate corruption. I will not tolerate incompetence. I will not tolerate any political party trying to take over or outside group trying to take over LULAC. We will become the independent voice of Jose and Maria, like we have been for 93 years. Those enemies, foreign and domestic, who think that LULAC is for sale, that LULAC se vende, you're sadly wrong. We're here because we believe in the people. We believe in the Constitution, and we believe in the ideals of America. And those ideals, even though we don't live up to them every day, are what we stand for, what our forefathers and mothers have died for. And therefore, you have my promise that I will continue to fight to make sure that LULAC is the best and most viable organization and one that you can be proud of. And we will clean house, vamos a hacer una limpieza. And after we do that, we will focus again on those issues that are important to us. And that's what I plan to do until July of 2023. Muchísimas gracias. Have a great fall.